Imagine waking up to the smell of smoke. Not a cozy fireplace, but the smell of your world burning. You are 15. You are Alexandra, a priest's daughter. Yesterday you worried about the cold winter wind. Today, your life belongs to a stranger with a sword. They didn't just take your freedom. They took your name, your God, and your future. You are dragged across the snow, thrown onto a ship, and dumped into a strange empire. You are no longer a person. You are cargo, destined for the passing slave markets of Constantinople. History books talk about sultans and wars. They rarely mention the women who arrived in chains and ended up ruling the world. But what happened to captives in the Ottoman Empire wasn't just a slavery. It was a brutal game of survival. The prize was absolute power. The penalty for losing was death. Before we go inside the palace, ask yourself, if you lost everything you knew, would you break? Or would you find a way to take control? Let's break a myth right now. The Ottoman Harem wasn't a pleasure palace full of women eating grapes. It was a prison. But it was also the toughest school in the world. When Alexandra, soon to be named Hürrem, stepped onto those marble floors, she didn't feel special. She felt invisible. She was just one face in a sea of hundreds. The isolation was terrifying. You are surrounded by gold and silk, but you are being watched every second. The Queen Mother watches you. The guards watch you. The other girls watch you, waiting for you to fail. To survive, you had to kill the girl you used to be. You had to learn Turkish, convert to Islam, and master the arts. You were being trained to be the perfect companion for a king. Most women just faded away. They became servants or were discarded, never to be heard from again. Hürrem looked at that future, a slow, quiet disappearance, and made a choice. She wouldn't be a ghost. She would be the fire that burned the palace down, the moment of contact. It's the most dangerous part. Looking the Sultan in the eye was forbidden. Speaking without permission meant execution. But Hürrem didn't just want his attention, she wanted his soul. When she finally met Suleiman the Magnificent, she didn't bow her head in silence. She made him laugh. In a palace of terrified slaves, she was loud and bright. She became Hürrem, the laughing one. But love in the harem is dangerous. By rising up, Hürrem put a target on her back. The Sultan's current favorite, Mahidevran, attacked her. She scratched Hürrem's face and tore her dress, screaming that the Sultan belonged to her. This was the turning point. Most women would have hidden in shame. Hürrem used her wounds as a weapon. She refused to see the Sultan that night. She sent a message saying she was too ugly, too damaged to look upon the king. It was a brilliant move. She forced Suleiman to see the violence in his own home. She didn't act like a victim, she acted like a judge. Suleiman didn't just comfort her, he banished her rival. The slave girl had just checkmated a queen. Here, the story turns from a romance into a political thriller. Hürrem did the impossible. She convinced Suleiman to marry her. A sultan marrying a concubine broke 200 years of tradition. In that moment, she stopped being property. She became an empress. But she didn't stop there. She moved out of the harem and into the center of power. She wrote letters to kings in Europe. She told Suleiman who to trust and who to execute. People called her a witch, but it wasn't magic. It was intelligence. She understood that a whisper can be deadlier than a sword. She started the Sultanate of Women. For the next century, the empire wasn't run by the generals. It was run by the harem. But power has a price. In the Ottoman dynasty, that price was blood. When a new sultan took the throne, he had to strangle all his brothers to prevent war. Hürrem was fighting for her sons' lives. If Suleiman died and his eldest son Mustafa took over, Hürrem and her children would be slaughtered. So the laughing one stopped laughing. She plotted the murder of Mustafa, the beloved heir. It was cold, but it was necessary for survival. Imagine the cost. To save your own children, you have to turn the man you love into a killer of his own son. Hürrem sat in her tower, knowing her safety was built on corpses. She won the game, but was she still the same woman? The priest's daughter was dead, only the queen remained. Hürrem Sultan died in 1558. She was buried next to the greatest emperor of the age as his equal. She took the chains of her slavery and melted them into a crown. She proved that even in the darkest system, a human spirit driven by the need to survive can find a way out. But her story leaves us with a difficult question. Hürrem started as a victim. By the end, she was the master. But to become the master, she had to become just as ruthless as the men who stole her. I want to leave you with this thought. If you were Hürrem, would you have accepted a quiet life as a slave? You have to keep your hands clean? Or would you have burned the world down to save your children, even if it meant losing your soul? Let me know in the comments. Was she a villain or just a survivor?